When your mindset is like, what is going to help us long term be the best builder in our local market, then your decisions go off of that sounding board. And if they check, then they check. If they don't, then we're not going to pursue them.
Welcome to Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Blunders, your host. Returning guest, episode 59, superstar Caleb MacDonald out of Toronto, Canada. What's up, buddy?
Just lighting it up in the north, baby.
Lighting it up in the north. You know, technically you're south of Minneapolis, so don't get too high and proud about your north. Your parallel runs a little south of Minneapolis.
We're in the drop of Canada.
We call that the humble brag of the Great White North. I'm sure that's why people were tuning in. All right, so our Thursday series continuing on is Losers Are Winners. So I tapped my good buddy Caleb and thought we'd share a few losing stories here of some failures we've had. You've what, 2 decades now, Caleb? How long have you been building?
Yeah, next year's 20 years.
20 years. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
That's a ride. Well, what you got? What are some memorable fail stories as you look back and you're like, oh man, looking back, you'd almost like cringe. I was thinking one story just this moment. Like, I remember early on when I used to build, I was so happy that I'd have a house and I would just go take photos of it. Not a professional photographer. It wasn't staged. It was just like an empty shell. And I don't even know if I could find those photos. They'd just be cringeworthy now, considering, the amount of attention that we spend on styling and social media and whatnot. But like early on, you're just like, hey, here's my empty house. Who wants to look at it or buy it?
All day. Let's look at some drywall.
Look at this fancy wood floor with nothing on it. So what you got? What are some things that you think of that really help define your success, or lessons that you really learned that you feel like without that failure, you wouldn't be who you are as a business owner or a builder today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like everything happens for a reason. Like, I'm a huge believer in fails are the best lessons. Like, the best mentorship I ever got was my father and some other employers over the years, and just like watching their failures, I learned so much from what they did right and what they did wrong. Like, I think people just want the glass box to be so perfect, but man, in construction, when it drops, it drops. And I think one that I would, over 20 years, you definitely stack up some good failures, but one early on that was a big one is I got a contract. I would take any work. Like, we were 4 of us, had to keep payroll going. So I'm like, whatever work you got, I'll take it. Took a contract to clean houses, which utterly sucks. The pay back then, this is, 20 years ago, was great. So I was like, no problem. Probably like 2 years into my business, definitely had seen some bad years and some good years since then. So took this contract, 160 houses, had to clean it every phase. So brick, you're outside. I owned a backhoe at the time that had leverage to buy and borrowed some money. So I'm young, full of energy, ready to rock, get out there. I'm like, I'm going to make some money on this backhoe, driving it down the road, have a brand new generator in it. Generator pops out, smush the generator, and like, brand new generator, get this big contract, kaputs. So I got to take care of that. There goes all my money. Next one, I'm like into the winter time. So you're in drywall phase, insulation, you're just cleaning dusty houses. And 160, by the time you get to the end of one, you're back to the next phase of the beginning. So floors, trim. And I was just like so done with it. I was like, I hate this. I hate cleaning every day. The guys were upset. I was upset. We just hated our lives. Just like the same site. That was it. It was just like years. It was a 2-year contract to build all these houses. And it was just so long drawn. Like, you start with footings and straw, like we're in winter. So you're smashing ice, pumping in the mud. Your hands are freezing. It just sucked. So I saw this like golden opportunity that I thought was the be all end all. I was a snowboarder, living in Canada, love snowboarding, had a buddy who had a snowboarding company in Finland and was like, this thing will blow up in Canada. So I was like, sweet, I'm all in. I partnered with my dad. We bought like, I don't know, 1,000 snowboards, which is just like a ridiculous number for someone just starting out. especially when you're like 20. And bought 1,000 snowboards, bunch of jackets, and I was just gonna sell to the world. So went out, knocked, cold called snow shops, board shops, ski shops, you name it. Nobody's biting. Nobody knows the brand. It was a wicked brand, but they had no presence here. Like they
What
were
was
in
that?
Europe.
What year was this?
This is like 2 years in. So I'm about 20. So this is 18 years ago. This is an OG. So this doesn't have social media. There is no like spreading the word. There's like we did put out paper flyers, printed flyers, put them on cars and malls.
So are you still cleaning homes at this time as
We're
well?
still cleaning homes, but
Oh my word.
we're living for the pipe dream on the weekends and every night. So you're totally cooked because you're working all day and then you're trying to hit snow shops when they can meet and work around their schedule. So I put all my money, like everything I had, into this golden opportunity. 1 year, lost all my money, had a ton of snowboards, shoved them on the top of my dad's garage and called it a day. And then went back to building Kingsridge. And, I think the moral of the story is like, we always think something is greener on the other side. Like the grass is greener. This is going to be better. This is going to be easier. But I think consistency and staying at the process of doing one thing really well, like you plant the seed, you water the seed, you get to harvest that seed. I was still so new to the whole aspect of like patience is a great virtue. I didn't really have that. I was young. I just wanted like a quick reward. Like now, our kids, they literally want something like a hairband or a chocolate bar. They just Amazon it and it's at the house the next day. Like there is no effort. There is no, like, we would get on our bikes on a hot day, bike to get whatever. We wanted some new weights or whatever we wanted from the store. We would bike to Canadian Tire, like 10 kilometers away. You can do the conversion there, 6 miles.
Yeah.
And then, and then we would have
6.2. Don't leave off the 0.2.
Yeah. We'll call that a wash.
Yeah.
So like you had the energy output of like getting on your bike, getting a buddy to go with you, going to the store, paying the money. Now it's just like click, click. And then there's just this like quick reward. And I think that this day and age needs a good hard lesson of like process and like anything can be done in a reasonable amount of time. Like we talk about it in our team meetings and with our team all the time is like, if we set a realistic expectation for what we want to accomplish in a year, we will be within that variant if it's a realistic expectation and we stay with the consistent process of moving the ball forward to that target.
So 2 questions. One is, how many snowboards do you have left out of the 1,000 in your dad's garage?
I ended up like 10 years after that, I still had probably like 60 to 100. Like we were like giving them away $20, like these $500 boards. Yeah, over the years they definitely
got rid of them
in price.
do you still ride any of them?
Yeah. My board is still one of them. I'm never letting that thing go. It's worth a small fortune to me.
That's so funny. Good point. How, and then from the cleaning, those 160 homes on a 2-year contract, I assume you did it at the time because you needed to feed the meter. You didn't have other income. So that was what did you learn from that? I appreciate the consistency and the long-term vision, but how did you transition out of the home cleaning? Or do you feel like you got your hand handcuffed? You got into a contract you couldn't get out of, so you had to stay the course for 2 years?
No, we scaled. So I hired like 5 guys and then I had my other 5 guys doing, our daily work. So it worked out long term. I think just having that longevity mindset, like in our office, I'm like, I'm going to be here for 100 years is our goal in business. So any of our decisions need to be bounced off of that soundboard. It's like, what's your goal? If you want to just scale and sell, then you're going to make different decisions, like buying new machinery and tools and office things or whatever it may be. But when your mindset is like, what is going to help us long term be the best builder in our local market, then your decisions go off of that sounding board. And if they check, then they check. If they don't, then we're not going to pursue them. So I think, it was a great opportunity, learned a lot, and it definitely was a grind, and consistency came into play. Like, you just don't want to clean the exact same house the next day when you just cleaned like 10 of them the day before. But
if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, or even if this is your first episode, I talk about the Contractor Coalition Summit all of the time. Our next one is happening November 7th through November 10th in Chicago. And all the details can be found at the contractorcoalitionsummit.com. You've got Brad Levitt, Nick Schiffer, Tyler Grace, Morgan Molitor, and myself will all be there. We've got great content over 3 days. You've got builders from all over the country. Try to get it to about that 30 people number. And we'll have sponsors as well that add a lot of value to each one of these dedicated days where you're talking about contracts and spreadsheets and margin and whether you're doing fixed bid or cost plus, your pre-construction agreements. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you haven't been following it yet, you should. The Contractor Coalition Summit Instagram page is giving you a steady diet of the conversations that are being had, a lot of promo reels, a lot of the interviews that I've done personally at Omaha, which was my first Contractor Coalition where I'm part of the leadership. I interviewed all 36 people that attended, and we're going to be unveiling each one of their interviews over the next couple of months. So people that were not able to attend and would like to can kind of get a better idea of the value that builders are getting. So if you're going to sign up and come to Chicago, you can type in the promo code Curious Builder and get $2,500 off, and we'll see you in Chicago. Have you ever made like a business decision that you look back and you're like, oh man, the way I structured that was very poor, or that really went, a way that I could have now either protected through my contract, or I wouldn't have made that mistake now that you're, 2 decades in?
Oh yeah. So like our contracts are a great example. We had some clients take advantage of us just being very open and honest, and they burnt us real good. So we spent a small fortune with a local market lawyer that's like big downtown Toronto, and dialed in our process of how do we collect money, what's the cadence of how we collect money. We want it always to be a win-win. So when we're winning and they're winning, like the project's going at a good clip, and we basically work our contract pay to play is how we kind of talk about it. And it just sets up the stage for both parties to feel comfortable, because we've definitely been over leveraged and people took advantage, and we got some serious burns in our sheets from
well, and I've seen, and I don't know specifically what you're referring to. I mean, sometimes you don't define the scope, or you don't define like the labor burn, because you guys self-perform a lot of your own work, correct?
We do.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if Nick Schiffer had, I'll bring him on the podcast at some point from NS Builders, but he's talked about it at Contractor Coalition. I can't remember if he talked about it when you were down at Huntington with me, but basically he had a client who was a lawyer that they didn't define their internal labor burdens. And then the client who was a lawyer came back and said, I'm not paying you for any of that stuff. And, it took him for, 6 figures, which was super unethical, because the guy knew what he was doing on the front end.
Right.
Which makes it even worse. And Nick basically shrugged his shoulder and said, I won't make that mistake again. And he talks about it all the time. I've seen even where clients a lot of times we're trying to do a good job, and sometimes you feel like now is not the day to submit an invoice. But honestly, it's never the right day to submit the invoice, so you should submit it anyway. And I've seen so many contractors, myself included, where you're like, I'm going to wait for kind of the right time. And then before you know it, you're a couple months in where you're doing work for free, essentially, because they haven't paid you for it. And then you submit the bill and they're like, I'm not paying it. And you have no recourse. And so I don't know if that's sort of what you were hinting at, but.
Like leverage is king. Like when they need you, like I talk about, the last weeks of the project are like months to the client. If you submit your bills, like you said, it's not always optimal. And we did the same thing for a while. We would hold back. Now, once the work's completed that week, we have a bi-weekly schedule. We send out a bill. If it doesn't get paid, we don't come back. It's very like
how often, I mean, we have in our contract, if you don't pay us within 7 days, we have the right to stop work. In my 21-year career, I've never stopped work. Come to think of it, I've never really had a client not pay me either, though. But, sometimes you're far down the order stuff. I mean, we take pretty big down payments. I think one of the biggest changes we've made over the last probably 5-6 years was we take probably a 10 to 15% down payment on the front end, which isn't that
Yeah.
radical, except that we take that off the final bill. That does not count towards any of your monthly draw. So for easy numbers, right? If it's $1 million
Yeah.
and we ask for $150,000 down, that is against the final draw. So
So
month
cool, yeah.
one, you are getting billed. And that was something we learned at Contractor Coalition that was super helpful. And I think just us understanding and explaining it, because sometimes people are like, well, and banks sometimes will kind of give you flack for that. I don't know how often you have to deal with bank financing. Most of our clients are either paying cash or home equity lines, so it doesn't seem to be an issue. But have you ever?
Yeah, we've definitely been burnt. Like we had one client basically was working for a numbered company. I don't know that.
I'm sorry, what's a numbered company mean?
A numbered company is just a registered company, but it has no name. So in Canada, you would hire Kingsridge, but we would be Ontario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is what we're actually registered as with the CRA, with the government. So this guy had a numbered company on his check, so it didn't say a name. So I'm not researching the numbered company. I was maybe 5 years into business, and he had been paying us through a big company he was working for, and then hiring us to do these main floor gut and redos and some bathroom work. And so what happened is I just get a lawyer's letter in the mail saying I owe a whack load of money from all these jobs because I was in cahoots with this guy who was stealing money from this big corp and then writing all these checks to these smaller jobs that he was doing on the side as a side hustle. So I thought he was doing it as his full-time thing. This was just a side gig for him. So he was funneling money as an expense out of this big company. And so we had to pony up, hire a lawyer, say, hey, we had no idea. We have our contracts with this client, and it clearly states what we're doing, where we're doing the work, the addresses. And he had forged all the addresses. He had forged the payment structure from this big company and put it under these big jobs that are not even in our local area. I would never even go to these places. So that was a big learning curve. Like I thought I did my due diligence, and there's always a curveball that you just don't know when you're young. So I think the biggest thing that I encourage young people that are starting out is get like this, get around people that know what's up, that have been in business for more than 10 years, and ask the right questions. Like, what did you do? Why did you do it? How have you been able to stay afloat? Like if you're in business for more than 10 years, you're in the top 5 to 10%. Like it's a wild feat that nobody thinks that it's a big thing. Like we had one other competitor was just killing it, went and bought all new machines and trucks and spent a bunch of money, and he's no longer in business. Two of them actually within a 5-year period. I was all jealous. I was like, man, I'm just using these old trucks. They're breaking down. I got to pay to fix them. And this guy just pops out of the grass and he's killing it in our local market. And then he's not here. So the goal is get wisdom and then run with it, but make a plan that's going to last the test of time. Like if you over leverage yourself and then you go into a dry season, which we've gone through 3 different dry seasons over the 20 years of there's no work. You gotta not have a massive overhead or it's just going to eat everything you got and more. So learning from others is the best advice you could possibly give someone. Our relationship, I'll text you. I'll be like, yo, what do you think about this? With Brad, I'll be like, yo, what should I do here? Asking people that are farther ahead than you or at the same level makes the world of difference for learning and making it long term.
This episode is brought to you by Olive & Vine Socials. If you're a builder, a designer, an architect looking to grow your brand without dancing on TikTok or spending your whole life on social media, listen up. Olive & Vine Social specializes in Pinterest marketing, blogging, and email strategy for luxury home brands. Did you know that Pinterest is second only behind Google in search power engine? We've been able to use it for the Curious Builder brand, and it's dramatically changed who we reach and how we reach them. They help you turn your beautiful work into strategic, SEO-driven content that drives real traffic and connects you with your ideal clients without burning you out. Ready to grow smarter and not harder? Visit oliveandvinesocials.com and tell them the Curious Builder sent you. No, I 100% agree with that. I'm still curious about that story that you told. That's a pretty wild story. I mean, how are you responsible? How did that shake out? Because if the guy is paying you, you have a contract with him. Like, I mean,
So it went to court, and he was doing it with like 10 other people or maybe more.
Oh my.
So basically, we got, exempt out of it. The documentation showed that we were not involved, but we still lost out and had to pay lawyers a bunch of money just to protect our name. So it stunk. And at the time, like, you don't have tons of capital. You're a very small ship sailing down a windy river. It's not like you have money to just drop 5 or 10 grand just to protect your name. At the end of the day, it worked out. I learned a lot of things.
But what could you have done differently? I mean, the guy had a numbered company,
So
so
I should have like researched that number and
yeah.
seen where it's registered. Like, you can get your bookkeeper or a lawyer to research the name and see if it's actually him on title, which is crazy because he had signing authority. So I would have found that he had signing authority for that account, but it wasn't his account. So it's a foggy road. Like, who knows if I could have done anything different or better. But I think, going forward, we have a very bolstered package that we send out, and it's designed for both parties to win. That's the goal. Like, we want our clients to tell their friends about us, that we treated them fair, that we treated them right, and we were done on time and on budget.
Do you, out of curiosity, I know clients do this. I'm a pretty trusting person. I mean, as long as the check's cash and they seem with it, like, I've never done a background check on any client I know some people that they'll do, they pay a company to do background checks and security checks, things like that. How in depth do you go with vetting your clients, and at what point? I mean, is it after the first phone call, the design retainer, the PSA agreement? Like, at what point are you sort of engaging, like, hey, I want to know who this person's back end, what it looks like on a business side?
Well, yeah, and now we need processes because I don't even meet some of them. Well, lots of them. Like, that's a whole different department that has, there's so many people now taking that. So we have a process. We don't per se do a background check, but we just have red flags that we'll go over in our weekly meetings with my elite team and just say, okay, what was the red flag? And then we'll all assess, is it worth going down the road? And then we'll fire the client, as you would say, and not even say, sorry, we just can't take that project, because it's just not worth. When we see a few red flags, we have a process that we have that's proven, and it just weeds that out. So the last like 5 years, we haven't really had any of these big dumpster fires because we have the processes in place to safeguard against them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got one that I don't even know where it's going to go. By the time this airs, I guess we'll have made a decision where, it kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, but I knew the previous builder that was tasked with it. The homeowner reached out to me and said, hey, you were highly recommended. And anyway, long story short, this industry is too small. We knew someone who knew someone, and like, hey, is it this project? And we're like, yeah. And so I talked to the builder, and there's like 6, it's a family thing, which is super cool. Like, at the service level, it's like, cool, this whole family unit wants to build a home together. But the red flag for me is like, only one captain can drive the ship. You can't drive a home by 6 people committee. And it's like husbands and wives and parents. And I'm like, oh boy, I haven't met with him yet, so I don't know. But one of my things when I meet with him will simply be is like, when it comes to change orders and design direction, like, we need one signature, we need one voice. And like, I'm happy to support this because I think it's super cool. Like, I would want that for my family.
Yeah.
But I'm not a psychologist by choice. I think we're all psychologists.
Pulling on retainer in the budget.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Caleb MacDonald on retainer for this one, guys. Oh boy. Well, I want to respect the audience's time. Every time I get into these stories that they keep on going, I want to keep going with them. But I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'm glad that you were a loser so you can be a winner. So thanks for coming on.
Hey man, open book over here.
Have you ever had a question that you really want to know the answer to and dive really deep on it, or have someone that you feel like is in a safe space that maybe is even outside of your state, where you can really ask any question, knowing that they'll be honest and open and help you, well, you're in luck. The Curious Builder is available for one-on-one consulting. You can go to thecuriousbuilderpodcast.com and book a time with me for 1 hour under the 1-for-1 page. I look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder Podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.